Hello students, here I'm going to help you out in answering the questions from your worksheets. Alright, but before you keep watching this lesson, I want you to go through the actual lessons first. Alright, make sure you go through the actual lessons, take down the notes and go through the examples from those lessons. Alright, and then you go on to this lesson, because this lesson is going to help you out in answering those worksheet questions. Okay? Let's get on to it. Alright students, let's go through the questions for lesson 1. So I want you to take out the worksheet from lesson 1 and let's look at some questions. But before we start, I want to revise what does index notation mean. So if I have x to the power of 2, or we say x squared, what does x squared mean? X squared means x times x, right? So this is what we call the index, or we can call this the power. This guy tells me how many times the base is multiplied by itself. So for example, if I have y to the power of 3 or y cubed, what does that mean? It means y times y times y. Okay, so again, this is called the index or the power. This guy is called the base. Okay, so let's look at question 1a. I've got 8 squared. What does 8 squared mean? Super simple. So the base is 8. I've got square or the power of 2 means I'm going to multiply 8 by itself 2 times. 8 times 8. I will do one more. 9 to the power of 3, which means 9 times 9 times 9. Simple enough. Let's go on question 2. So this time we want to write it in index form. Okay, so if we look at, just go back to the top. This is what we call the index form. Okay, because in this form we've got an index. And this is what we call the expanded form. Expanded form. Okay, so let's work on question 2a. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. What is the base? My base would be 3. What would be my power? Remember what power is? Power is how many times the base is multiplied by itself. So 3 is multiplied by itself 6 times. So 3 to the power of 6. I'll do 3f. 36 times 36 times 36 times 36. So what would your answer be? Right, so it's 36 times it by itself 4 times. 36 to the power of 4. You should be able to do the rest. Let's look at question 3. Very simple. It's just asking you for the base. I will do 3a. What would the base be? The base is 12. The index or the power, what is the power in this case? Would be 2. What does the basic numeral means? What does that actually equal? So 12 squared, 12 to the power of 2 is the same as 12 times 12. So you should know your times table. 12 times 12, 144. Okay? I'm just going to let you do the rest. Let's work on question 4. But before we go on, I want to introduce you to this sign. This sign means square root. What it means is, if I'll do 4a for you. If 3 squared equals to 9, what does the square root of 9 mean? This sign is asking what number, find a number if you multiply that number by itself equals to 9. Okay? So what number if you multiply by itself is 9? Well, the hint already gave it to you. 3 squared equals to 9. So if the question is asking you for the square root of 9, the answer is obviously 3. Let's look at question B. If 5 squared is 25, what is the square root of 25? So it's asking what number can you multiply by itself will give you 25. So well, the hint already gave you 5 squared equals to 25. So if I take the square root of 25, obviously my answer is going to be 5. I would do this 4e with you. If I've got this time, this sign, we've got a little 3 outside. This is called the cube root. So what it is asking is, what number, if you multiply by itself 3 times, you are going to get the number inside. So what number, if you multiply by itself 3 times, you are going to get 64. But the hint is already given to you, right? If I have 4 to the power of 3, which means 4 times 4 times 4 equals to 64. So if I'm asking you what is the cube root of 64, your answer will obviously be 4. I'm going to let you work on F. So now we're going to look at the second worksheet from lesson 1. This time we are not using numbers, we are using variables, or we're using letters, right? But the math is the same. It doesn't matter, it doesn't make the math any scarier, it's the same. Let's look at question 1a. The question is asking you to write the following in the simplest index notation, or another word is index form. Remember, x squared is x times x. X cubed is x times x times x, right? This is called the index form. This is called the expanded form. Alright, so let's look at 1a. M times m times m. So I'm multiplying m by itself 3 times. So m to the power of 3. Let's do F. Q times Q times Q times Q times Q equals to, well, very easy, Q to the power of 5. Question 2 is asking you to write the following in expanded form. So I'm going to go to 2a, b squared, or b to the power of 2 is just b times b. The others are simple enough, I will just let you do the rest. Now this time we're going into something called substitution problems. It wants you to put in a number for an unknown. Put in a number for a letter. So it's asking you to find the value of the following when x equals to 2. So what you're going to do is, in place of x, you're going to have 2. So x squared, well, this question is telling you x equals to 2, so we're going to have 2 squared. And what does 2 squared mean? 2 times 2, which means your answer will be 4. I'm going to let you do B yourself. Okay? I'm going to do D with you. X cubed. What does x cubed mean? What does x equal to? X equals to 2. So that means 2 to the power of 3. What does 2 to the power of 3 mean? 2 times 2 times 2. And what does that equal to? 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So your answer is 8. Now let's look at F. What does 3x mean? Remember, 3x is the same as 3 times x. So 3x will give you 3 times 2. And what does 3 times 2 equal? 3 times 2 equals to 6. Remember, 3 times 2 is not the same as 3 to the power of 2. 3 to the power of 2 is 3 times 3, which is 9. Okay? Alright, let's look at question 4. The question is asking you for the simplest index notation. Okay? So, it wants your answer to have some sort of power. It wants your answer to have something like a power. Okay? Or index. Or power. So let's look at 4a. 3 times a times a times a. We are going to group the like terms together, or group the similar items together. This 3 is by itself, it's a number. Okay, it has got no friends, it's a reject, so we will just keep it the same. I've got a times a times a. A multiplied by itself 3 times, which is the same as a to the power of 3 times a to the power of 3. Right? Can I sorry, let me just write it a bit like 3 times a cubed. Can I write this any simpler? The question is asking me for the simplest form. Remember, mathematicians are lazy. We don't want to write things out if we don't have to. In this case, do we need to write the x out or the multiply sign out? No, we don't, because we can just write as 3a cubed. Because in this case, the multiply sign is implied, meaning we assume the multiply sign is there. 3a cubed is the same as 3 times a cubed. You don't need to write this out. I will do 2 more with you. I'm going to do b. Alright, so this time I've got 4 times y times 2. Alright, so let's group the similar items together. Let's look at the numbers first. I've got 4, but I also have a 2. 4, I can multiply the 4 by 2 because they are just numbers, right? I can multiply them together. 4 times 2 is 8. Y times y will give me y to the power of 2. So your answer would just be 8 times y squared, or 8y squared. I'll do the hardest one for you. Let's do f. Okay, let's look at numbers let's look at the numbers here. I've got a 3 and I've got a 3. Can I group them together? Yes, I can. 3 times 3 will give me 9. Now I'm looking at the m's. How many m's are multiplied by each other? 4 m's. So, which is the same as m to the power of 4. As simple as this. Let's move on. Okay, now we're looking at question 5. Expand each of the following. When you see the word expand, it doesn't want to see any power. It just wants the answer to be in the expanded form. Okay, so let's look at 5a. What does 5x squared mean? If I've got 5x squared, in between there is a sign that is implied. There is a sign that is assumed that we're too lazy to write out. What is that sign? Times, right? 5x squared is the same as 5 times x squared. Can I expand it even further? Yes, I can, because in an expanded form, I don't want to see any power. What does x squared mean? X multiplied by itself twice. So 5 times x times x. That would be my answer. I'll do one more. I'll do b for you. 8 cubed. What does that mean? It means 8 times 8 cubed. 8 times 8 to the power 3. What does 8 to the power 3 mean? 8 times a times a. That's how you write it out. Okay, so let's work on question 6. Find the value of each of the following when a equals to 2 and b equals to 3. So what we're going to do is this is another type of what we call substitution problem. What we want to do is we want to replace the letters with the number, right? So, for example, let's do 6a. A squared, we're going to replace the a by 2, which means 2 squared. What is 2 squared? Is 2 times 2 equals to 4. I will just do one more. Let's do b. A cubed b, which is the same as, what does a equal to? A equals to 2. Okay, so I'm going to replace a by 2. So it will be 2 to the power of 3. Remember, in between letters, there is a sign. What is that sign? That is, assume there is a time sign. So 2 to the power of 3 times b. And what does b equal to? B equals to 3. So it will be 2 to the power of 3 times 3. What does 2 to the power of 3 mean? 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Okay, and your answer would be 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 3. Your answer would be 24. Okay, so that's how you do it. For the other ones, you might need a little bit more space. So write your answers out in your maths book. Don't try to squeeze everything in the little space that is given. You won't have enough space. Show you're working out. Do it in your maths book. Alright, so we're going to go through the worksheet from lesson 2. But before we go on, I want to revise on the key concept for this lesson. So make sure you have watched the lesson first before going on to this section. Okay, all right. The key thing that we have learned is called the multiplication index law. Basically, what it is saying is if I have x to the power of a times x to the power of b. Okay, so if I have the same base and then they're both raised to some sort of power, if I multiply these two together, the answer would be the same base, but I will just be adding the powers together. Okay, so x to the power of a times x to the power of b equals to x to the power of a plus b. So I'll give you a quick example. If I've got x to the power of 2 times x to the power of 4, what does that equal to? That equals to x to the power of 2 plus 4, which equals to x to the power of 6. Okay, so once you know that, we should be able to go on to the questions. I'm going to work on question 1a with you. 2 to the power of 4 times 2 to the power of 8. So they both have the same base. This is a very important check. They must have the same base. So if they have the same base, we're good. So they have the same base, my answer will have the same base. 4 and 2 to the power of 4 times 2 to the power of 8, I will just add the powers together. So it will be 2 to the power of 4 plus 8, which is just 2 to the power of 12. Let's do one more. Let's do b. 4 would be this base, 4 to the power of 3 times 4 to the power of 7. So I'm going to have the same base in my answer. 4 to the power of what? What would my power be? It will be the sum of these two numbers, right? 4 to the power of 3 plus 7, which is 4 to the power of 10. You should be able to do the rest. Let's try number 2. Let's do 2a. This one looks tricky. What does 3 mean? Like 3 to the power of, well, there's no power there. What does 3 mean? 3 is just the same as 3 to the power of 1. Okay? 3 is just 3 to the power of 1 because it's just multiplying by itself once, right? 3 to the power of 1 times 3 to the power of 2. So now you can see what to do, right? At the same base, I just need to add the power. So it will be 3 to the power of 1 plus 2, and my answer will be 3 to the power of 3. Let's do question B. Okay, same base. I just need to, if I multiply them together, I just need to add the power. So 2 to the power of 3 plus 2, which means my answer would be 2 to the power of 5. I'm going to let you do the rest. Let's look at question 3. This time we're using variables, we're using letters. So, but the math is not any more complicated. Let's look at 3a. I've got these two things multiplied with each other. Do I have the same base? Yes, I do. So that will make the math much easier. I will have a, I know my answer is going to be a to the power of something. So I just need to add the powers together. 3 plus 2 equals to a to the power of 5. What about if let's look at I. What would my answer be? Okay, so I'm multiplying these three terms together. Do I have the same base? Yes, I do. The base is t. So all I need to do is add the 3 powers together. 3 plus 4 plus 7. So what would my answer be? 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 plus 7 is 14. So your answer would be t to the power of 14. I will let you do the rest. Okay, so now we're looking at some slightly more complicated questions. Don't freak out. They are not as scary as they look. I'm going to do 4a with you. I've got 5x cubed and then times x to the power of 2. So let's look at 4a. I'm going to write, what does that mean? That means 5 times x cubed times x squared, right? Okay, this 5, can I multiply by anything else? No, I can't, because this guy is by itself. That I don't have another number there. So I'm just going to have the 5 in my answer. Alright, so now let's look at these two. X cubed and x squared. If I multiply them together, do I have the same base? Yes, they have the same base, so I know my answer is going to have the same base. What do I do with the power? Add them up. 3 plus 2. So my answer is just 5 x to the power of 5. So my answer is 5 x to the power of 5. I don't want you to just write your answers out. I want you to write your answers in your math notebook because I need you to show you're working out. Okay, let's look at question B. I've got negative 4a to the power of 5 times a to the power of 4. Okay, this negative sign looks scary, but is it? Not really, because this just means negative 4. Is this negative 4 multiplied by anything else? No, it's not. So I just leave it the same. Now let's look at this a to the power of 5 times a to the power of 4. What would that become? Well, that becomes a to the power of 5 plus 4, which means my answer will be negative 4 times a 5 plus 4, which is just 9. So it's negative 4 a to the power of 9. Okay, let's do this. This one looks scary. Let's do F together. I've got 7a cubed b to the power of 5 times 5 a to the power of 7 b to the power of 9. So let's break it up. What does that mean? That means 7 times a to the power of 3 times b to the power of 5 times 5 times a to the power of 7 times b to the power of 9. Okay, so let's group the similar things together. Let's multiply this, the like terms together. Let's look at this number 7. Does it have any friends? Does it have any like items? Yes. This 5, right, is another number. So I can multiply these two together. 7 times 5 will give me 35. Remember your times table. Now let's look at this a. Do I have anything else with the base a? Yes, I do. This guy. So I can multiply these two together, which means it becomes a. If I multiply these two together, it means I'm just going to add the power. 3 plus 7. Now finally, let's look at this b. Does it have any friend? Yes, it does. It's got this b to the power of 9. Okay, so b to the power of 5 times b to the power of 9. So these two are multiplied by each other, which means b to the power of 5 plus 9. Okay, so let's tidy this up a bit. 35 will just be 35. A to the power of 3 plus 7 will become 10. B, 5 plus 9 will become 14. So your answer would be 35. A to the power of 10. B to the power of 14. Alright, you should be able to do the rest. Let's look at question 5. The question is asking you to simplify the following. Alright, so what it is saying is there a simpler way to express, let's look at, if we're looking at 5a, is there a simpler way to express this? So, if I've got 5 to the power of a times 5 to the power of 4, well, that's just basically the same as what we have been doing, right? I multiply these two terms together. They have the same base, which means my answer is going to end up with the same base, 5. What would my power be? What do you do when you multiply two terms if they have the same, if they are in the same base? What do we do with the power? We add them, right? We add them. It would just be a plus 4. So your answer would be 5a plus 4. So this is a simpler form than this. I'll do one more. What about b? Same base. I multiply them together. What will your answer be? So my answer would have 3 to the power of x plus y. Let's do the hardest one. Let's do L. Okay, so if I have y to the power of 9a times y to the power of 6a, what do you do? I know they have the same base, which means my answer will be y to the power of something. What would that something be? The something would be the sum of the two powers, right? So it will be y, 9a plus 6a. I can simplify a little bit more because I've got 9a plus 6a. So it's like I've got 9 lots of a's and then I add them with 6 lots of a's. You can imagine it as I've got 9 apples plus 6 apples. So how many apples do I have in total? So it will be 9 plus 6 apples, right? Which means I will have 15 apples, 15a. So your answer would be y to the power of 15a. Let's look at question 6 now. These are the trickier questions. I'm just going to do one and I'll let you think for the rest. I'll do 6a with you. X to the power of 7 times something will give me x to the power of 10. So what do I multiply x7 with for me to get x to the power of 10? Okay, so this time you kind of need to work backwards, right? X to the power of, so I'm just going to write x to 7 times something will give me x to the power of 10. But I know if I multiply x to the power of 7, what has changed from here to here? The power, right? The power has increased from 7 to 10. How would the power increase? Well, by multiplying something with the same base, right? And then you add the power, which means 7, I have to multiply x to the power of 7 by x to the power of 3 because that will become x to the power of 7 plus 3, right? That will become x to the power of 7. So your answer here would be x to the power of 3. Okay? That's how you do 6a. Alright, so now I'm going to give you some time to finish the rest. Okay, so we are on to the worksheet for lesson 3. Before we go on, I want you to finish the lesson first. Alright, so make sure you have finished the lesson before going on to this section of the presentation. Alright, so what is the key for lesson 3? We have learned another index law, which is called the division index law or the second index law. What it is saying is if I've got x to the power of m divided by x to the power of n is the same as x to the power of m minus n. Okay? So another way of saying it is if I've got, for example, let me do an example. If I've got x to the power of 4 divided by x to the power of 2 is the same as x to the power of 4 take 2 equals to x squared. Okay? So now you know that, we can easily go into the questions. Let's do question 1a. 2 to the power of 9 divided by 2 to the power of 5. Okay, so do they have the same base? Yes, they do. So I can just subtract the powers. 2 to the power of 9 take 5, which is just 2 to the power of 4. Maybe I will do 1c. 7 to the power of 16 divided by 7 to the power of 3, which is just the same as 7 to the power of 16 take 3, which is 7 to the power of 13. Note, in this question, it's not asking you to give me the final answer. So you don't need to type it out in your calculator and find what is 7 to the power of 13, because the question is asking you to write your answers in index form. Okay? So if you write your answer as just 7 to the power of 13, that's good enough. You don't need to go to your calculator to find the final answer. Okay, but this time, we need to find, for question 2, it wants the answer to be as a number, as basic numerals. Okay, so you will need to have your calculator with you for this question. Alright, so let's look at 2a. I've got 2 to the power of 8 divided by 2 to the power of 3. Alright, so I'm just going to write it down at the bottom. What does 2 to the power of 8 divided by 2 to the power of 3 mean? Well, they have the same base, right? If I'm dividing, I will subtract the power. So it will be 2 to the power of 8 take 3, which is the same as 2 to the power of, what's 8 take away 3? It will be 2 to the power of 5. What does 2 to the power of 5 mean? It means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. You can use a calculator or you can just do it yourself, and your answer should be 32. So, okay, your answer would be 32. Alright, so you should be able to do the rest. But for this part, you can use your calculator. Let's look at question 3. It's just asking you to simplify the following. Do you need to use your calculator? No, you don't, because it's only asking you to have your answers in index form. It doesn't need to know the basic numeral. Alright? So your answer can be something to the power of something. I'm just going to do 3a, 2 to the power of 15 divided by 2 to the power of 8. Remember, this line, this fraction line, or we call it the vinculum, is just a, what does that mean? It just means divide. Alright? So if the line in the middle of a fraction, it just means divide. So it's 2 to the power of 15 divided by 2 to the power of 8. Same base, what do? You minus the power. So 2, 15 take 8. Alright, so your answer, what would your answer be? It would just be 2 to the power of 7. Okay? Let's do question 4. 4a. If I've got y to the power of 10 divided by y to the power of 2, what does that mean? It just means y to the power of 10 take 2, right? Which is y to the power of 8. Simple enough. You should be able to do the rest. Alright, let's look at question 5. We're still using the division rule, okay, or the second index law. I've got 3. Okay, what is the question asking? Simplify the following. So it wants your answer to be a little bit simpler than that. 3 to the power of a divided by 3 to the power of b. What does that mean? Means 3 to the power of a minus b, right? Same base, I can just subtract the power. Let me do just 2 more here. I'm going to do b. 5 to the power of 9x divided by 5 to the power of 2x. Same base, so I can subtract the power. So that becomes 5, 9x, take 2x. Is that the simplest form? No, it's not, because I can simplify the power. What is 9x take away 2x? I've got 9 lots of x's. Take away 2 lots of from those 9 lots of x's. Again, think about it as I've got 9 apples. I took away 2. How many do I have left? 7. So your answer would be 5 to the power of 7x. Okay, so let's try, I'll do the hardest one. Let's do L. M to the power of 9 times n to the power of 6 divided by m to the power of 4 and m to the power of 5. So basically another way of writing this out, remember this division, we can write it out as the line in between a fraction, right? We can write it as a vinculum. So m to the power of 9, n to the power of 6 divided by m to the power of 4 and n to the power of 5. Right now, can you see how we can simplify this? Yes, we can. We can simplify it because we can group the similar items together. I've got m to the power of 9 divided by m to the power of 4. So what would that become? That would become m to the power of 9 take away 4. Right? I'm still multiplying by n's. And what would the n become? N to the power of 6 take away 5. Can I simplify a bit more? Yes, I can. That equals to m to the power of 9 take away 4, which is 5, and n to the power of 1. Can I simplify a bit more? Yes, I can, because n to the power of 1 is just n. So your answer would be m to the power of 5 multiplied by n. Okay, have a go at the other ones. I'm just going to do one more with you. Let's do 6a. And then I will let you have a go at the more challenging questions. 6a. X to the power of 9 divided by something. And it's giving me x to the power of 4. Okay, what would you do? You know it has to be x to the power of something, right? So I'm just going to write x here. What I need to do is, what is that power? X to the power of what? If this guy divided by this guy is going to give me this guy, what would this thing in the middle? If we divide, we're going to minus the powers, right? So 9, take away something will give me 4. What would that something be? That something has to be 5, right? Because x to the power of 9 divided by x to the power of 5 is the same as x to the power of 9 take 5, which is x to the power of 4. So your answer has to be x to the power of 5. All right? I want you to have a go at the other ones and ask your teacher. Email me or your teachers if you're stuck on anything. Very important lessons. Make sure you try all the questions.